Welcome back, everybody, to the Bremen Regional Championship, where I am back. My name is David Partington, and I am joined by the lovely Costa Didymos. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Still trying to recover from the resounding Dynamaxes we saw in that previous round. We saw both a Metagross and a Kartana, both mechanical beings out to ruin or, essentially create havoc for the streams. So we do apologize for those. But of course, we did see Elliot go ahead and run away with that 2-0 win. In a situation where he was up against Justin Terrace, I think he played really well with Shedinja in game one. He was able to essentially get a quite fortunate critical hit with a Max Geyser going into that Porygon 2, which did have special defensive boost. So quite unfortunate there for Justin, but I think Elliot was able to capitalize off of that with the Katana bring and use of its Dynamax in that game too, which was really, really solid play from himself. But of course, it's left to be seen if we're going to see a Shedinja for the third round in a row, of course. But we do have our players, which are going to be Eric Rios and Jonas Wiegel.
We are, yes. Round 3. These players are both 2-0 and looking very strong in this competition. So, first on your screen, we have Eric Rios. Does he need an introduction? In case we don't, here are his achievements. 2022, the Europe International Champion, and then a couple of months ago, the Liverpool Regional Champion, the Oceania Internationals top 8 in 2020, and the top 8 in the World Championships in 2019 as well. So lots of different formats there, and a lot of which are like those restricted formats too, like this one here.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to Eric as well, we could probably fit another maybe 4 or 5 slots as well of achievements. But knowing that he's so notoriously good at this game, and I think he's proven it time after time again. So the good question is to see if he did bring his Ringia sort of team that's been so phenomenally well for him. But of course, going on to the other side, we've got our second competitor, second trainer for round 3. It's going to be none other than Jonas Wiegel, recently coming off of the Bilbao special event as champion 2022 2 weeks ago, and actually he is a previous title holder of Bremen Regionals champion. Look at him go giving the peace sign of 2017. So he's out and back trying to go ahead and get this title for himself.
He is.
Champion.
And I wonder if he's using any of the same Pokemon as well. It was a very different format back
Oh,
then.
wow.
But maybe we'll see like Nihilego or Tapu Koko or something like that. Would be nice to see. But anyway, like these two players are looking very strong going into this format. I don't know if they're using any of the similar teams that they've used before. But Honas's like Bilbao special team that he used, or
Yes.
Eric's team, which he's been using a lot of that Groudon, Zacian, Charizard Sun team. I'm not sure if he's using it today or not, though, but we'll have to find out in a second. But while we remember, though, there is the poll. So if you think Eric Rios is going to win, put in !Rio Puzzer, or if you think Honas is going to win, Honas, and let's see who's going to top this out, because we've got 2 champions here.
Oh.
Like, and so again, it's still really hard to call. You could call it on maybe how much CP they've got, because Eric, I think it's like almost 2,000 maybe, or something like that.
Yeah,
it's incredible how much he's got. So I wouldn't blame you if you were going to vote for him, to be honest.
Exactly, but then again, I think being able to see these sort of like high caliber sort of players, like very world renowned, especially in Europe for sure, as well as very experienced. You know, they're quite veteran like when it comes to the multitudes of different formats that they essentially go ahead and they tend to always bring out very positive results from. So being able to see them in just in round 3 is another excellent pairing. So far, very hyped and very satisfied with the matches that we've been able to view. And we do have team preview up. David, which Eric isn't actually going to be bringing his Sun.
No, much like the weather in Bremen today, it seems like a bit of a change has occurred in the champion over here. So Kyogre now is the choice for Eric. With that Zacian, Zapdos, Rillaboom, Incineroar, and the Grimmsnarl, a very common 6th we've been seeing quite a lot over not just this week, but the previous weeks as well. It's been consistently very good as well, like as just a solid pick that doesn't need too much introduction. Possibly Mystic Water, maybe like Assault Vest, maybe Life Orb on the Kyogre. We'll have to see going in. And then on Haas's end, the Kyogre again, but then the Calyrex Shadow, which seems to have picked up for a while. The Thunderous, which Defiant could be a Defiant one, maybe could be the Prankster variant, because there's that Landorus there too, along with the Rillaboom and the Incineroar as well.
Well, yeah, if it is the same team that Jonas did actually bring from Bilbao, it will be that Life Orb variant. So I'm very excited to see his sort of play style coming into this game and matchup against Eric, which we know he's very strategic. He really likes playing with Bolt and, you know, tricky mons such as, you know, that Grimmsnarl that we actually see coming up as a lead.
We do. Now, Honas's Kyogre does get its Drizzle up first here. So, and as we can see as well from the HP that the Spectotor mode allows us to see, it might make sense that his is the faster Kyogre because he's got a little bit less HP. So maybe Eric's is a little bit more bulky on that end. So with the Grimmsnarl and the bulky Kyogre, it looks like he's going to really bulk out, well, that Kyogre with potentially screens. With the Grimmsnarl, you often carry the Thunder Wave, Scary Face, maybe even a Switcheroo or something, which could be a real hamper into the Defiant Thunderous that this Jonas is very likely to be. But either way, I think there's a lot of options at both sides. But first of all, it's Jonas to Dynamax.
Yeah, first to Dynamax, so I'm quite intrigued to see if this is logically going to be the Defiant Thunderous, let's be real. And we do get confirmation, at least that is the choice right now. Prankster, Thunderous don't tend to Dynamax unless they are forced in a scenario where they really have to try to capitalize off of adding that longevity of the doubling the HP from their side. But we're actually going to be seeing Eric, on the other hand, trying to match that Dynamax and decides to go for the Kyogre. So this team is actually similar to a Stefan Mott's team that he was able to go ahead and get the Indianapolis Regional Championship, I believe. So it gives me those vibes that we're actually going to be logically seeing screen setup play coming out from this Grimmsnarl.
Yeah, I think so. And there's the trick reveal from Eric. So no Scary Face or Thunder Wave. And it's giving that Thunderous the Iron Ball straight away. So the Kyogre goes first with the Water Spout, as it likely would have. Grimmsnarl actually lives the attack here, even without any light screen, and that allows Kyogre to instantly outspeed the Thunderous thanks to that instant eyeball, and takes out the Thunderous in one fell swoop through the Dynamax. Like, just absolutely gone turn one. What a turn one, Costa.
Yeah, I'm still in shock, to be honest, because I think just being able to see the complete neutralization of Jonas's Thunderous there, which they don't... I know that, of course, it does have a Life Orb as a choice there, so it's not able to benefit off of an Assault Vest to be able to allow it to survive, but you've got Trick on Grimmsnarl, and we did mention it's a very tricky Pokemon. You go ahead and you see that sort of interaction going, it would have removed an Assault Vest, and I think that paired up with the fact that the Iron Ball was now onto the Thunderous, halved the speed of that Thunderous, and then we've got Eric's Kyogre actually revealing the Life Orb, which is absolutely phenomenal damage that you really do not want to be on the receiving end of.
Yeah, I wonder if that Life Orb is the extra amount of damage that you do need to be able to pick up that KO on other Thunderouses. Because if so, that's like some phenomenal team building and like kind of prep for what is becoming more common in the meta at the moment, where the Thunderous is picking up. And like same with the Trick as well, because Scary Face will make it obviously a lot more scary, and Thunder Wave doesn't affect it. So I like the adaptation Eric's made here. But now for Jonas, the Calyrex Shadow is now coming in because there isn't any more speed control on Eric's end.
No, there isn't, as we are going to actually be seeing Rillaboom switching for the Calyrex Shadow Rider that decided to opt to switch out, maybe preserving any potential Focus Sash that Jonas wants to be able to utilize further on in the mid towards endgame. But we're actually going to be seeing more of a defensive play, at least initially, from this Grimmsnarl, that is, from Eric's side. I believe that was Reflect, so it wasn't actually Light Screen. We do see Jonas's Kyogre go ahead and pick up the KO thanks to the Water Spout, whilst Eric's actually going for the read and goes for the Max Hailstorm straight into that Rillaboom. And my lord, David, that is a very cold one-hit KO.
It sure is. So yet another huge KO for Eric there. So I like that too, you know, because if you're attacking to a Calyrex Shadow, which is very likely Focus Sash, as almost all of them are, a Geyser isn't going to gain you too much extra. But if you, with the extra Life Orb hit, your Hailstorm might be enough to chip it down to Sash, and then the Hail ends up chipping it down through that Focus Sash at the end of the turn.
Yes.
And that happened to also cover the Rillaboom switch in. And if you look at Jonas's team, he's got the Landorus and a Whimsicott in the back, so it was such a safe, like, move into that slot. So there wasn't too much for him to read.
Yeah.
It was just a really, like, well-positioned and well-maneuvered will return because the Kyogre is sitting there doing water spouts. You've just got rid of your Grimmsnarl after it's done everything it wants to do, and now you're piling on the offense with your own Rillaboom.
Well, exactly. So when you have that damage output powered, like you said, like from the Life Orb, I think it's honestly amazing because you're able to cover for multiple plays, like you said. Jonas isn't in a really good situation. He's got the Whimsicott, he's got the Landorus. They are really not good switch-ins there. And like you mentioned, I think being able to bolster with the coverage move when you have that amount of damage output is phenomenal. And we've just seen it may have even paid off for Eric. He's just gone ahead and picked up one-hit KOs left, right, and center. And the Calyrex is essentially on its own, just going for Astral Barrages. And just going to be retaliated upon with a matched Hailstorm, where we're going to try to find out if there was confirmation. If it could bring it down to its Focus Sash, it can't. So may have been... I think it was just a very good play, honestly, from Eric's side. Look.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if it's the Focus Sash, you get it down to Sash either way, and you still need a second hit. Yeah. So, like, and with Rillaboom, it's still in Grassy Glide range either way too. So, I really like Eric's play here. Interesting to see the Kyogre on Jonas's end actually go down to the Grassy Glide instantly, because you can even like get your training in to survive that Grassy Glide. So we didn't see it there. So maybe it's quite a frail Kyogre or a particularly offensive Rillaboom, which we're yet to see a bit more information on, because Eric has just played this game so hard and quick and fast and getting so many KOs. He's not actually given out much information to Jonas.
Well, no, exactly. I think all that is reminiscent of this game one is Kyogre, Dynamax, Life Orb. And obviously, we've got the Grimmsnarl trick situation going thanks to the Prankster usability of it, because what we saw was Jonas could not even utilize Dynamax. He wasn't even able to get a move off with that Thunderous because it was just knocked out in such a raw way with the one-hit KO. He had no more momentum that he could go into it. Like, he doesn't even have very safe switch-ins in that scenario too, because Kyogre Dynamax is something that you really need to be cautious about, and you need to try to be able to bring in that Rillaboom safely to the point where maybe you can position it, threaten the Kyogre, but then again, you've got that Grimmsnarl. So it's a very tough lead if you're Jonas to have to try to handle coming out from Eric's side, because I think Eric's got this flowchart quite well structured because he doesn't leave a lot of opportunities for Jonas to try to take advantage of.
Yeah, and well, Jonas now has a very important piece of information, and it's that trick Iron Ball Grimmsnarl. So obviously, he's probably not going to go for the same plan as he did last time. He might. I'd like to see him maybe delay his Dynamax a little bit more, because especially with that lead, him leading his own Kyogre was fine. It got out a lot of damage, and it wasn't getting hit too hard back. But I suppose you've got to wonder, though, whether now seeing a Life Orb on the Kyogre on Eric's end, it's definitely more of a Dynamax target. Because obviously you don't want to be like water spouting with a Life Orb often, because then your next hit is weaker. So he might be really, that's often the Dynamax target he's going to go for all the time. And you may even be running Thunder for that Kyogre mirror here. However, you do also have the Zapdos for electric coverage if you so wanted to, but we're yet to see that. So that is still something that Eric could pull out of the bag. Which we haven't seen yet, because we haven't even seen the ice move. It could even be Blizzard, Ice Beam. We haven't seen what the water move was either. So there's still a lot of information Jonas wants to get, but very key to see the trick there. So maybe like bringing out the Whimsicott could be something that he's thinking about doing. Getting up an energy ball, or maybe a bit more speed control.
Yeah, and what I do really like as well about Eric's team is that if you look at a team preview, you do think of Stefan Mott's team, right? But when you actually see it in action, it's quite different. And I think that is really, really good going into an event to kind of have certain expectations that you can bait and force onto your opponent if they're familiar with the meta. They keep on top of the trend of it, and then you just have those variations when it comes to the item choice, the move choice. I think Grimmsnarl Trick Iron Ball is something that has been increasing in usage, and we could essentially see why, because previously in previous formats and series, we'd see more of a reliance on Lagging Tail, but having that immediate halving of speed because of dynamic speed tiering, right, introduced in Gen 8, I think it really pays off. And also, flying type moves get grounded, right? So if you have a ground type move, you could completely utilize that.
Yeah, and like, because Thunderous often goes for the fly, like you can't use that if you're got the Iron Ball. So yeah, like that's its only flying type option that it's got. So we've got a very different switch up of the leads here. So we've got Zash and Grimmsnarl on Eric's end, Rillaboom and the Thunderous again on Jonas's end. So obviously Jonas is leading with the fake out this time. So he is able to fake out the Grimmsnarl and then to prevent it going for the trick and maybe then get a KO afterwards. I'm not sure if the Grimmsnarl is going to go down to a Thunderous hit. It might, depending on how much bulk it's got. but it may even be like an Iron Tail Thunderous potentially, which is offers it the max steel spike. That could be kind of cool to see. But then Zacian's just sitting here, which does so much damage still to Thunderous with the Behemoth Blade.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think we're just going to go ahead and see the first Dynamax being utilized from Jonas' side. It is to be expected for the Thunderous slot. I think Jonas just wants to be able to at least guarantee that he can actually use a Dynamax move, to be completely honest, in comparison to Game 1. And I think that will logically be the case because I don't think the Zacian, even without the Behemoth Blade targeting into that Thunderous, would be able to do the trick. As we actually see the Fake Out going into the Grimmsnarl there, this may be a focus, like you mentioned, David, into that slot, as we're just going to be seeing Zacian try to go into the offensive, target down that Thunderous. It will be a 2-hit KO. The Thunderous, at least for now, from what we've seen, is not that bulky at all. But no max Steel Spike, unfortunately. That would have been amazing to see. It's just going to be a max Airstream, but guess what? It's more than enough.
Yes, and it's a lot better as well, because that means Jonas does outspeed the Thunderous going into the next turn. Whereas otherwise, it would have got a defense boost, which probably wouldn't have done too much based on how Behemoth Blade did there too. However, even still, if he hadn't got the KO, the Glassy Glide from the Rillaboom would have likely been able to pick it up before it was able to go for a Prankster move.
Yeah.
So now Zapdos does come in for Eric, so he still has his Dynamax option, and Zapdos is looking like a really nice option to give more speed boost to the Zacian. So if you can protect the Zacian, maybe Airstream with Zapdos, try and keep pace with this Thunderous as well.
Yeah, I think so, and it's quite a different dynamic in comparison to Game 1. At least we see Jonas was able to utilize, at the minimum, one of Thunderous's Dynamax moves. So in this scenario, Rillaboom isn't exactly the best when it goes up to Zapdos's. I think it's a bit awkward of a spot. Might want to be wanting to pivot, perhaps, into a Mon in the back. I think what Jonas could rely on, even if he does have let's say a Whimsicott in the back, could be mid-game sort of Tailwind setup and maybe a sweep if he can, because Zapdos, like you said, David, can be a threat if allowed to be, essentially. And I think this may be an indication of what we're going to be seeing.
It is. So Eric does reveal his Dynamax this time. Not the Kyogre, interestingly, which is likely in the back, but I'm sure would potentially benefit from some Airstream boosts if it was able to get alongside the Zapdos. But now we see the Zapdos going for the Dynamax. We can see that it's probably going to go for an Airstream, potentially into the Rillaboom, get rid of it so your Kyogre can come in a little bit safely. So there's the Protect on Zacian, and I think we're probably going to see an Airstream next turn, but not before the Lightning on the Thunderous.
Max Lightning on the Thunderous. We're going to be seeing a change of terrain from Grassy over to the Electric. And I think in this scenario, you're just wanting to make sure, if you're Jonas, that you can focus down on the Zacian. Eric was a bit aware of this, and we're actually going to be seeing the Wood Hammer there, so the focus was indeed on that Zacian, but having a setup of the max Airstream, picking up a KO with a Zapdos onto the Rillaboom is really, really good, because you want to at least make sure that the Zacian can outpace the Thunderous if it opts not to go for max Airstream. And that's exactly the scenario that we've ended up with. So logically, the Thunderous is not in a really good spot unless Jonas does have a way to force a speed control sort of strategy going into the next Pokemon is going to be written in.
Yeah, I think Jonas was really hoping Eric wasn't going to protect there, because with that Lightning and Wood Hammer, that was likely going to be enough to pick up the knockout. However, if you're going for that combination, then like Rillaboom's likely to go down there before it can really get a hit off, especially versus a Zacian, which is probably going to still outspeed a +1 speed Rillaboom.
Yep.
So, but he kind of goes all in on that play because he's already kind of behind, which I can understand. But unfortunately, Eric does go for the Protect, and he's able to get a really nice speed boost onto this Zacian, where Jonas's Thunderous is now behind in speed. So that can just instantly be covered by this Zacian, and Zapdos outspeeds the Kyogre and can easily go throw in a Max Lightning. So Eric's in a really strong position at the moment.
I think he is, because even, like we said, if the Kyogre is of a Choice Scarf variance, it's still being undersped, or at least it's not outspeeding both the Zacian and the Zapdos. So essentially, Jonas is left quite open right now when it comes to his Pokemon. As we're going to be seeing the KO being picked up on from the Zacian onto the Thunderous. Thunderous is out for the count. So I think this is quite tough, because we're just logically going to be seeing a Max Lightning into the slot. Can it survive is the question, and what will it try to retaliate with? Maybe Origin Pulse, maybe to pick up a double KO, because it does actually survive on 26 hit points.
Yes, and unfortunately, a very sad Water Spout comes out of Kyogre. So it's not having a whale of the time right now. And so Eric, I think, is probably going to take this one. It does look like Calyrex Shadow, though, is probably, if there's any Pokemon that's going to do a comeback, it's a very strong, fast spread move. So if somehow it's able to like survive a double up from these two Pokemon that are actually faster than it, then maybe there's something that's like Jonas could like carve out here. I'm not sure. I don't know if there's an ally switch that could even come out here, but Eric's actually going to go for the forfeit. Sorry, Jonas has gone for the forfeit. Yeah, I was wondering if he was doing a switch out. Yeah, I was like, ooh.
No, yeah, we are going to be seeing Jonas go ahead and click the forfeit button there. I think being well aware of the scenario and predicament that he was in, I think he just wasn't able to completely utilize that Thunderous Dynamax there. I think he had a good strategy going into it. It's just how it ended up turning out was the fact that Eric had